Yo, what's up, all you burner stones and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. I love it. Hey, all you vipers out there in the world, hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks where you're listening to the show. And we're about to smoke some Caked Up Cherries, which was grown by our friend Ignius. And this is such a good strain. It is amazing flavor, smell, high. Oh, Ignius, my friend, thank you. And while Mrs. Weedman's lighting that doink up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Caked Up Cherries. It is an indica-dominant strain. Caked Up Cherries is an indica-dominant 70-30, created with crossing the delicious wedding cake and cherry cookie strains. Named for its delicious flavor, celebrity percentage, and gorgeous appearance, Caked Up Cherries is definitely one for the ages. This bud has tight-shaped olive green nugs with thin orange hairs and super frosty thick coating of tiny amber tinted white crystal trichomes. I have to agree with that. As you pull apart each sparkling little nugget, aromas of fresh spicy cherries, sweet fruity vanilla cake are released. The flavor is very similar with super sweet and fruity cherry overtone, accented by a touch of creamy vanilla cake. The Caked Up Cherries high is just delicious with soothing and lifting effects that activate the mind while simultaneously relaxing the body. You'll feel a boost of euphoria at the onset of the high that stimulates your mental form, leaving you feeling focused and happy with a sense of motivation. A relaxing physical high accompanies this heady lift, keeping you anchored and full calm from head to toe. With these effects, it's a super high, around 21% on the average THC level. Oh, I love it. Caked Up Cherries is often chosen to treat those suffering from conditions such as depression, chronic stress, or PTSD, chronic fatigue, ADD, or ADHD, and appetite loss or nausea. The effects are calming, euphoria, focus. Ms. Weeman hit that a little too hard.
I was totally fine until I wasn't.
Happy, relaxing, and uplifting. Relief symptoms of ADD, ADHD, depression, fatigue, nausea, and stress. The flavors are berry, cherry, fruity, spicy, sweet.
I smell spicy.
And then aromas are berry, earthy, fruity, herbal, and spicy, and sweet. And I will have to say this. Mrs. Weeman and I were smoking out of our percolator, and we haven't smoked out of our percolator in a hot minute. And Mrs. Weeman finally, what'd you say when you smoked out of the percolator the other night?
I tasted weed.
You tasted weed. It's been a minute, huh?
Yeah.
You tell them why.
It was great. It was great. Well, I go on and on about this, and I don't know that everybody wants to hear it again, but I have a health condition, and the medication alters my taste. So it's just hit or miss.
And you were finally
and
able.
I could taste.
Yay,
it was really
time
good.
for the percolator.
Yeah.
It's time for the percolator.
It brought me back. It was like instantly I took an inhale, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in high school. It was like a flavor that I had tasted many years ago. It was great.
I love it. I love it. This is, and we're also smoking it out of a Spliff Society palm wrap, which is one of our favorite cones out there. Thank you, Briggs and team, for supplying us with some of our favorite wraps. It goes perfectly well, slow burn, great taste, just a phenomenal weed and phenomenal cone to go with it. So thanks, Briggs and team, and thank Ignius for throwing to the cause. So we had a great weekend.
We did. It was busy.
2 events.
Yeah.
One on Friday.
Yep.
And one on Saturday. I'll talk about the Friday one. We went to a birthday party for some of our friends. They had an event, and it was Maddie's birthday party, and she is a friend of ours from Profess Sesh, made content, High Focus Media. We've done plenty of events with them. You've heard us talk about them many a times, and it was her birthday. And where was that again?
That was at the Honeycomb Hideout out in Addison. So that is a pretty neat place. That is Mr. CBD's home base. And so all things CBD and activities and just people getting together. And it was just a nice night. Yeah.
Yes. We bought Maddie a lemon fluff cake from Wolf's Bakery here in the home of the south side of Chicago.
We have to ask her how she liked it.
Yeah, we do have to ask us how she liked it. It was a lot of fun. Got to see some people we knew. Got to meet some new people. I met a really good home grower. He had this really cool portable microscope that he had attached to his phone. He was going through one of Big Earl's strains, Funkle, that I bought with, and was doing some really good deep dive trichome, basically microscoping it with his portable microscope onto. Oh my God, we were just like, whoa. So I thank my new friend Mario for showing us a great experience with weed and through a microscope. It was amazing.
It was really cool.
Yeah, he had some great pictures. And then
he had one of the, what was that phone he had? Was that a Google phone?
I
It opened.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Google or if it was a Galaxy, one or the other.
So it was like a 4x4 screen almost, and then he had this like a fat marker type device.
Yeah.
It was like as long as a marker would be and fat, and he just put the nug up to the end of it, and it had like a super highly pixelated camera in there, and it popped the image right onto his phone. It was so cool. So you could look at the trichomes before you smoke.
Yeah, I want
and consume. Yeah, it was pretty neat. That was really cool.
I want to look at those buds in a different way. I mean, we usually use a jeweler's loop and stuff when we're growing and stuff like that. But this was great. I had a lot, and to be able to use that at our table when people come to our table and I roll joints for people, we can actually show them, like, let them
you
look
could just
at
put
it. Pictures up too, but also show them it too, like live would be kind of fun. It's a different experience because most people don't actually really get to see those beautiful, beautiful trichomes unless they go through pictures. But to see it live like that and the bud they're about to smoke kind of elevates the experience a little bit. I think so.
Helps you understand the plant more.
Yes, maybe one day Mr. Weedman will buy one for himself.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And then what did we do on Saturday? We had a great time Saturday. We went to that event that Briggs and Spliff Society and Tree Huggers.
You know, I'm blanking out because in my brain that was Sunday. That's why.
That was Saturday, at Blue Island Beer Company. Tree Huggers and Spliff Society put together this wonderful event, the After
Dark Sesh.
And it was a rager.
It was a little EDM. And vendors and
weed,
artists and weed. It was really
and great
cool.
Craft
and beer.
Yeah, craft cannabis and craft beer. And these DJs, they had
a solid lineup. There were 4 DJs, and they were each as good as the other.
Oh man, they all had their own styles, and they were just banging. Mr. Weedman went on the dance floor for a little bit and banged a little bit too. It was so much fun to just hear some really good EDM, drum and bass, techno, old school house, new school house, just a little bit of
like
everything.
One of the artists, I think it was the Goombas. I'm probably bashing it. I totally just screwed up his name. Anyway, he was the last DJ to come up, and each transition from one song to the next, like the start of the next song was like a retro song. It was a song from like when we were growing up, like definitely from 80s, 90s. Yeah. And it was a real like street hip hop. You know, he'd have some very recognizable old school song, and then he'd segue into like his beats. It was really cool.
There were some beats that I was like, how is he going to pull this off? And all of a sudden he did. And I was
boom,
like, whoa, how would he blend that so well together? We were like, and we were hanging out with one of the guys from Ralph Wiley was at our table, and he's old school. His brother was a DJ.
And they're like our age.
Yeah, they're our age. So and we were like talking about this mix and a bunch of different mixes. He's like, I don't know how. I'm like, me neither, D. I was like, holy shit. So it was kind of funny how we were talking about, and his brother was a DJ. And so it was just kind of, and he hung out in the club scene, so it was good to talk and reminisce about old club days. But then listening to these new school DJs and what they were, we were like, holy fuck, man! They, we were pretty highly impressed. So, but once again, great banger, great time as always. Got to see a lot of friends, rolled a lot of doinks for people, and just we met a really good edible lady too.
Yeah, great homemade edibles. She makes all of her gummies with RSO, and then she had shroom bar, like she had some good stuff.
Yeah, she had some good stuff.
There was a black light makeup artist, so you could get like face paint, and it was glowy under the black light, so that was super cool. And then there was an actual tattoo artist, and he was doing a pop-up, and he was using glow ink for your tattoo, so you could have a permanent tattoo that apparently is invisible by day and only shows up with blue light.
That's fucking
kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't jam-packed. It wasn't oversold. We were like at very, like, it was high capacity, but it wasn't shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
It was really comfortable, and I think people really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and Blue Island Beer Company does a phenomenal job hosting cannabis events and doing a really nice job at supporting the cannabis community.
And Blue Island has been a very supportive town. I think that they should be acknowledged for that because they're doing a lot. They're really growing.
The dispensary there, one of our partners, they're doing a great job with Blue Island Beer Company, bringing the cannabis scene to Blue Island.
And then someone bought the Lyric Theater, so they have revised like Blue Island has always had this stretch of about 5 blocks, and then you go over the bridge, and then there's another few blocks of old like like an old historic downtown.
Yeah,
it's
it's
very
dope.
cute. Some really great buildings, and it's always been small businesses, but it's just always been kind of a mix, and it never really drew people that way. And so it's always been this little town that's on the cusp of like being great.
Yeah.
There's some great housing stock. As a realtor, it's a pleasure to show places there. Like historic Blue Island has.
Just kind of like the name too.
Yeah,
Blue Island.
Yeah, Blue Island. And historic Blue Island has beautiful old brick homes and a couple of mid-centuries and some great like colonials. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. And
sorry,
cool.
I
That's
got
all right.
a little lost in the sauce
yeah,
there.
but you like that stuff. And Mrs. Weedman loves historic buildings, and they have a lot of historic buildings.
So it's good to see.
Yeah.
The town is embracing cannabis, and the reason I brought up the theater, sorry to cut you off, I figured out where I was going. The Lyric Theater has revised and rebuilt themselves, and they have collaborated with Bee Dispensary and done cannabis-friendly events.
Yeah.
No consumption inside, but showing stoner movies on 420, and you could smoke out in front.
Yep.
So the village, the town, I don't know what they call themselves. I think it's a village.
Yeah. Or the town of Blue Island. Yes.
Yeah. It's just a cool place.
Yeah.
And so it's great to see it.
The old Western Avenue.
Yeah.
There's Blue Island Beer Company. There's Rock Island Public House, which has been there for a long time. You have what's the bar across? Martial Law.
No, Natural Law.
Natural Law. Sorry. And then there's another new restaurant just opened
There's
up.
a bunch of new
there's a
stuff
bunch of,
that's
and there's a
opened
cool
up.
little clothing shop there too now.
That might have closed because the building was for sale.
Okay. Well, it's still
But
cool.
it's great.
Yeah.
They're it's really coming together.
Yes, yeah.
It's nice.
It's always been a good community. I've done a lot of events there when I worked in the beer industry too, because Rock Island Public House is a craft beer joint, and it was also used to be Maple Tree Inn before they burnt down. A great restaurant too. If you're from the South Side or North Side or any side of Chicagoland
You
area,
would have known about
you've
it.
heard of Maple Tree. You've eaten at Maple Tree. There's was a great taco place there in Old Western called Mario's Tacos. One of our faves. The owner passed away, so they closed down, and nothing's gone in there yet. I love that building too. So it's such a good little scene, and just check out Blue Island Beer Company and check out some of the events that they do for cannabis there. You'll be and they do a lot of
they
other
do a
stuff
lot of
too.
music events. They do
comedy.
They have a lot of like quirky little off the beaten track kind
Yeah.
of things that go on there. So
Alan
good,
and Brian
good shows.
and the staff there are phenomenal. Alan is a home grower. Brian is a home grower too, and a wonderful craft. Their beer is really good. They actually also make delicious craft cocktails. Oh my
on
god!
draft.
I was drinking that. I was drinking the raspberry juice with lime and mint.
Yeah,
With Cruzan spiced rum. Oh my god! I drank two like it was
Really good.
nothing. Like it was. I mean, I was like, how did I drink two that fast?
Yeah.
And I'm not a big drinker, but I do like a good cocktail, and I love beer. I'll always love beer. It has a place in my heart, and they do both well. You had a really different beer there. It was made with lavender, right?
Five Bridges, because I think there's Five Bridges in Blue Island.
Island.
So Five Bridges is one of their core beers, but they did a seasonal one that was infused. It was called, I don't know.
No, but it had like lavender in it.
It was, herbal infusion.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it had lavender. Yeah, it had lavender and some
was
other
very good,
herbs
very
in there.
tasty.
Yeah, it was neat. It was really.
They
and
do
it
a lot
kind
of
of had
cool-
a blue tinge.
They
to
do
it.
a lot of cool beers there. It's just a cool. Go support the local craft beer guys down there, and tell them Mr. and Mrs. Weedman sent you. So we're kind of dry now for the next couple of weeks. Kind of nice. We'll be hitting some events though, just stopping by and saying hi. But we won't be posting up anywhere anytime soon. So it's kind of nice.
Not for this month.
Yeah, not for this month. So, but find us, reach out to us if there's an event you want us to come hang out at. We'll be happy to come roll some doinks and have some fun, and just we'll be around. So come find us and come smoke a doink with Mr. and Mrs. Weedman. So you ready to get the show started?
Let's do it.
All right. This was something back in the 90s when I wasn't getting dirt weed anymore. I wasn't just getting straight street weed anymore. Like when I found good people to buy weed from, this aura of the purple cannabis strains, were like huge when you got one. Like, holy fuck, did you see that, man?
I think it's still kind of like an elusive thing. Like when you see it, it's still like, ooh.
It is, but
different.
it's for us back in the 90s when
it was a big deal.
When you got an ounce and it was all purple nugs and you were like, holy
Whoa.
fuck.
Like I got
Oh my
magic.
God. And you got charged more
Yeah.
because it was purple. And you're thinking, this is going to be the best, strongest flavors fucking. And it was great. It was amazing, But it was something different that we didn't know. I didn't know about, like how it was grown, how they grew purple weed, why weed turned purple. You just thought it was like a step up strain. Like you got like the primo weed. But there's some truth about purple cannabis that some people know. Some people don't know. Some people might have heard the lore of the purpleness, So it's not about the color, says the title of this. So purple cannabis has captured the fascination of many enthusiasts, often viewed as a sign of superior quality or better experience. While these vibrant hues make for stunning visuals, the truth is that the color of cannabis has little to do with its potency, flavor, or overall effects. Let's explore what really matters when it comes to cannabis quality and why you shouldn't judge your bud by its color. What makes cannabis purple? A team of scientists recently studied why some cannabis plants turn purple. They confirmed that the natural plant pigment called anthocyanin, which we've talked about before, is responsible. Anthocyanins can appear red, blue, or purple depending on the environment factors like temperature, pH levels, and sunlight. These pigments are found in many plants, including blueberries and eggplants, and act as antioxidants, helping plants protect themselves from UV rays and other stresses. The research also found that purple cannabis contains higher levels of anthocyanins, particularly a type called kerosene. In fact, purple cannabis has more kerosene than many fruits, making it a surprisingly new source for these beneficial plant compounds. The team hopes their findings will help farmers grow cannabis with higher anthocyanin levels, which could be used in natural dyes, foods, and health products. Does purple weed mean more potent? No. The strength of cannabis doesn't depend on its color. Purple cannabis gets its color from the natural pigment called anthocyanins, which don't affect how it makes you feel. What matters most are the levels of cannabinoids like THC and CBD, along with the terpenes that give cannabis its unique smell and effects. A green strain with the right mix of these compounds can provide a more powerful experience than a purple one with less. So don't let the color fool you. Focus on cannabinoids and terpenes instead. Some places charge a little bit more money for purple weed. Don't be duped by the snake oil salesman. Flavor and aroma. Is purple cannabis superior? Again, not necessarily. The flavors and aroma of cannabis come from terpenes, the aromatic compounds responsible for its unique scents in different strains. While some purple strains may share certain terpene profiles like sweet berry-like aromas, there's no direct link between color and flavor. A green or orange tinted bud can be just as flavorful and aromatic as a purple one, depending on its terpene profile. Why the hype around purple cannabis? The allure of purple cannabis is largely aesthetic. It stands out in a market dominated by green buds, creating the perception of rarity and exclusivity. We used to call, in the beer world, a white whale was like the creme de la creme beer. Like there was only so many made, and like you'd buy it for like $50 for a 750 milliliter, and now you can turn around and sell it for $300-400. It's just the allure of that. It's still a great stout, but is it worth $300-400? This is back in 2010 to 2015 when beer was at its height. So you get that allure from the perception and rarity of purple cannabis. This visual appeal can lead some consumers to assume that purple cannabis is higher quality, but this is a marketing-driven myth rather than a scientific reality. What should you look for instead? When choosing cannabis, focus on the following factors instead of color. Cannabinoid content, check the THC and CBD, or other cannabinoid levels that align with your desired effects. Terpene profile. Consider the flavor, aroma, and potential effects contributed by strains, terpenes composition. Trichome coverage. If you're able to look at it at a dispensary that does deli style, but when you go to an Illinois dispensary, you barely can see your weed in most of the jars. Some jars they do it right, but you still can't look at it. It's in a bag before you even get it. So it's already wrapped. You don't get to look at that bud, so you get out in your car and you're like, what did I get? What did I get? What did I get?
Yeah. It's so packaged up. And a lot of the packaging you can't even, if it's flour, there's usually a visible spot.
Yeah. Frosty trichomes, which indicate high resin content and typically strong potency. Freshness and quality ensure the buds are well cured, sticky, and aromatic with no signs of mold or dryness. the final word on purple cannabis. Purple cannabis is undoubtedly beautiful and can be fun addition to your rotation, but it's not inherently better than green, orange, or any other hue. A great cannabis experience depends on a combination of cannabinoids, terpenes, and personal preference, not the color of the flower. So next time you shop, let science guide your choices, not just your eyes. I grew purple weed once, and it was probably 100% by mistake. I probably had my temperature at a way that, and my pH was probably off. And all of a sudden, remember, I was like, oh man, these are purple. These are nice looking buds. It was pretty. I'm not going to deny it. Purple buds are beautiful, and especially some purple buds that you see out there that people grow.
When they have those dense little flower,
yeah,
oh my God,
those
so
little
pretty.
rose petal flowers that are just like fucking vibrant. I mean, I've seen tricolored. I've seen people grow tricolor weed before, where you had like bright orange, purple, red. I mean, you've seen some different things out there, and it just all depends how you grow it. It just doesn't mean it's going to be as potent in what you want. It just looks just really pretty. Nice. Yeah, it looks like getting a rose, bouquet of roses, and all of a sudden you get like the 12 red, and there's one white one sticking up in there. Going, damn, that's a pretty white rose. It stands out. So. So at our event we did on Saturday, we met some people that have been listening to us for a long time, and it was an honor to know that, I'm very humbled by that. I know you were too when you found out how long they were listening to us.
Yeah. They've come to see us at a lot of events, and I knew that they were listeners, but I just thought they were kind of occasional listeners. I didn't realize that they were really listeners. And it was cool. This
gentleman and this couple, husband and wife that we met, they're super cool and super nice. They've come to a bunch of stoners. They're great. They're a great, fun couple. They love to smoke, and they're fun.
We're not saying their name because the story that we're going to go into, I don't know if they'd want us to say.
Let's call them E and Roller Girl.
Okay, so some people might know.
Good enough, right? So we were bullshitting, and we were talking about, still being drug tested at your workplace. And it was weird to hear that so much. I still hear that.
Right.
We've read a ton of articles about it. So I just happened to come across an article on how long does marijuana stay in your system.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
Let's go. This one's for you, E. All right. The most common reason a police officer pulls a car over is speeding. Exceeding the posted speed limit is considered the primary reason for traffic stops by most law enforcement agencies. But once pulled over, officials can require a roadside test. Also, many companies, including some government agencies, still conduct drug testing for employees.
I have a friend that works for the federal government that still they can't smoke.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of jobs. Marijuana's presence in the human body can be detected for varying lengths of time, depending on several factors. And understanding how long cannabis stays in your system is crucial for both medical and legal reasons. There are a variety. I'm really, really baked.
Thanks, Ignius.
Yeah, in a good way. There are a variety of facts. Just stick with me. I'll get through this. Which determine how long. I don't know if I'm talking really slow, but it feels
good.
like I am.
Just go. Go. You're perfect.
There are a variety of factors which determine how long weed is in your system. THC, the primary psychoactive component in marijuana, is metabolized by the body into various compounds. Some metabolites have half-lives of 20 hours, while others can last 10 to 13 days. Complete elimination can take between 5 and 65 days, depending on individual factors. Different drug tests have varying sensitivity levels and detection windows. Urine tests are the most common and can detect marijuana use from a few days to over a month after the last use. Blood tests are less common and more expensive, but can indicate recent use, making them useful for situations like DUI cases. There are variables that influence how long marijuana remains in your system, and they include frequency of use. Chronic users retain THC longer than occasional users. First-time users may clear THC in about 3 days, while daily users can test positive for 30 days or more. THC concentration. Higher potency marijuana leads to longer retention and slower elimination. Body composition. THC is fat soluble, so individuals with higher body fat percentages may retain THC longer. Metabolism. A faster metabolism tends to eliminate THC more quickly. Hydration. Proper hydration can influence the rate of THC elimination. Genetics. Some individuals may be predisposed to metabolizing marijuana more quickly or slowly. Consumption method. Inhaled marijuana reaches the bloodstream faster than ingested forms. So as you can see, the duration marijuana stays in your system is highly variable and depends on numerous factors. Understanding these factors can help individuals make informed decisions regarding marijuana use, especially when they know drug testing might occur. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Ian Roller Girl. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you just buy the Whizzer.
The Whizzer.
The Whizzer.
What is the Whizzer?
The Whizzer is you have somebody pee in this little pouch and you keep it around your waist so it stays warm. And if you get drug tested, you just pull out the Whizzer and you whiz.
You pee someone else's pee.
Pee. That's clean. You shoot clean. You don't shoot dirty. The Whizzer is the best. I knew a couple of union guys back like 10 years ago. Right. They're huge potheads, and I'm like, yeah, we get drug tested though, so we wear the Whizzer. And that's when I learned about it.
Whose pee is it?
They find somebody that
just
I think
anybody?
one of the guys it was his son's.
Okay. Because they're not doing like anything, they're not testing anything other than to see if there's drugs in your system,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and one guy used his son's
You can't
pee.
use like a dog or something though.
No. But one guy used his son's pee.
Oh my
his son
God.
was like 15. He used his son's
He's
pee.
like peeing this for me.
And these guys used to smoke some really good fucking fire. It was like 2008, you know. This is a long article.
Yes.
It's a two banger, and you're gonna get 2 for 1, a twofer. And so Mrs. Weedman and I are sharing this article because it's very long. And what I'm gonna say about this article, it explains a lot. It does a very good job. So if you have people out there that just want to know just a little bit of quick facts, this is probably going to take about 15 minutes to get through. But it's a lot that you would want to teach somebody or have them listen to or have
about cannabis.
About cannabis, yeah. So it's from a doctor. The doctor's name is Ben Kaplan. We've read some of his articles on the show before, and this is the truth about cannabis. This doctor's perspective, from reefer madness to doctor approved. Okay, so it's a little long. Stick with us. Take a break if you got to. Press pause. Go smoke a joint. Go get a drink of water. Put your earphones on. This is some education. 2 parts. You ready, Mr. Weedman? Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Cannabis stigma out. Stigma out. Science in. Science. Cannabis is having a moment. Whether you're curious about THC products, interested in CBD, or exploring non-intoxicating cannabinoids like CBC, CBG, this plant has something to offer nearly everyone. But with so much history, stigma, and misinformation surrounding cannabis, it's hard to know what facts and what's fiction. This Dr. Ben Kaplan is writing this post to be a comprehensive guide to why cannabis is doctor approved, whether or not most doctors are yet aware of the reality. Safe when used responsibly, and poised to transform healthcare and wellness worldwide. Is cannabis really safe? The simple facts you should know. Cannabis has been part of the human story for millennia, woven into the rituals and remedies of countless cultures, from the ancient Chinese treating pain with hemp-based teas to Indian yogis using it to deepen meditation. This plant has worn many hats: healer, relaxer, even occasional life of the party. Mr. Weedman knows. It's a wonder, really, that something so natural and unassuming has been such a dependable companion through the ages. And yet, here we are in the modern age, rediscovering what our ancestors seemed to know all along. As they puff past and puff away the peace pipe along, cannabis isn't just safe. It's one of the most versatile and therapeutic tools in nature's arsenal. Today, with the spotlight of science and the FDA shining brightly like a diamond on this once shadowed plant, we finally have the research to back up what generations before us took as a given. Clinical studies, government reports, and even skeptics among us now point to some conclusion. Cannabis is not only non-lethal, how many medicines can claim that, but its therapeutics potential spans an impressive spectrum of human need, from easing the anxiety that seems hardwired into modern life to help us sleep through chaos. And this writers writing this as of January 6th of all days. Cannabis feels like it's answering the calls we've been shouting into a void and at the back of healthcare providers' heads as to scurry into the next patient waiting for decades. And really, isn't it about time we spent years clutching at straws, popping pills, claiming teas and taste suspiciously like lawn clippings, or scrolling Instagram wellness pages at 2 a.m., desperately wondering if moon water and affirmations will fix it all? Meanwhile, cannabis has been quietly waiting in the wings, ready to step in and offer relief. It's like a wise old friend who knows how to help without making a fuss. Humble, unpretentious, and profoundly effective when used responsibly.
Yes.
And as Paulie always says, smoke smart, right? And if stats are to be believed, nearly 15% of folks over 65 are already on board. How about that? Grandparents, the worldwide, are leading the charge. So here we are, with modern science finally catching up to ancient wisdom. Cannabis, the plant that your great-great-great-grandparents probably relied on for their aches and woes. Now with a lab coat of evidence draped across its shoulders, whether you're seeking calm in the world that seems louder and faster by the day, or simply a way to reconnect with the body that feels a little creaky around the edges, cannabis might just be the answer hiding in plain sight. But, whoops, somehow there seems to be no grown-ups in the room to guide people with what to take, how it should be consumed, when, how much, how often. It's just insane that this isn't a joke, and it is so not funny. Let's dig into why this plant has stood the test of time and what can offer us now. Until the professionals get their act together, we might as well become an educated population. What makes cannabis safe? No fatal dose. Unlike alcohol, opioids, or even amphetamines, cannabis has no known lethal dose. It doesn't suppress respiratory function, making overdoses virtually impossible. To be even-handed here, there are no known deaths related to allergy to cannabis. One absolute tragic case of cannabis industry employees in his home state of Massachusetts. No major organ damage. Long-term use of cannabis, especially when consumed responsibly, doesn't damage liver, kidneys, or vital organs. Sadly, the same can't be said for some of the most common medications we rely on, often without a second thought. Take your opioids like oxycodone, hydrocodone, or even oxykitten, for example. I knew I'd catch you on that.
Oxycodone.
Yeah.
Kitty? Kitten?
Name that movie, though. Can you name the movie?
This is something about 40. This is 40. Oh, my God.
While they prescribe for pain management, they can wreak havoc on the liver when combined with acetophenamine as its products, like acetophenamine, thank you, like Percocet, thank you. Mrs Weedman said it right. Over time, the strain can add up, turning a helpful solution into a lurking danger. Then there's acetophenamine itself. That you say it? Thanks. Arguably the king of OTC pain relievers. It's in everything from fever reducers to cold medications, yet it's also the leading cause of acute liver failure in the U.S. A small overdose or even a regular high-dose use can leave the liver struggling to keep up. For chronic inflammation or everyday aches, many of us turn to NSAIDs, or like ibuprofen, and naproxen, right? Is that how you pronounce it? They're effective, sure, but long-term use can lead to very real kidney damage. No joke. Gastrointestinal ulcers and severe cases of kidney failure. Hardly a minor side effect for something over-the-counter and so widely used. Even prescribed to keep cholesterol in check can stress the liver, in rare cases cause muscle damage. The muscle breakdown can burden the kidneys, creating a cascade of complications that feels far removed from their intended purpose. Compared to these options, cannabis stands out, not just for what it can do, but for what it doesn't do. Its ability to manage pain, inflammation, and other chronic issues comes without the steep toll some other medications take on our vital organs. This makes it safer and often smarter choice for long-term care. Remember the old doctor's credo, first, do no harm. Cannabis aligns with the ethos in a way many other treatments simply don't. That was a big line right there. Did you catch that, Mrs. Weedman? Remember the old doctor's credo, first, do no harm. Damn, that's a good line. A natural fit for the body. Cannabis works through your body's endocannabinoid system, a network of receptors we're all born with that helps regulate mood, pain, sleep, and more. Cannabinoids like THC and CBD interact with the system, promoting balance without disrupting essential functions. Evidence. A 2017 report, the National Academies of Science concluded that cannabis is effective for chronic pain, chemotherapy included nausea, and muscle spasms and multiple sclerosis, all with exceptional safety profile. THC or CBD, finding the right fit for you. Cannabis, like exercise or deep or sleep or nutrition, is not a one-size-fit-all solutions. Whether you're exploring THC for pleasant fun or for a kick, and medical benefits, or looking into CBD for the relief that doesn't come with the tinsel and zing, cannabis offers a range of options that are easily personalized for your needs. THC relief and the optional measure of joy. THC often gets pegged as the fun one in cannabis, thanks to its psychoactive effects, but that's selling it short. Sure, it can spark creativity, bring a smile to your face, or even help see the humor in life's absurdities. But there's much more to this powerhouse cannabinoid. THC is much more than a buzz. It's a reliable partner for some of life's toughest challenges. THC might be the life of the party, but it's also got potential to be the steady friend who shows up when you need real support. Amen. 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 Whether it's easing pain, quieting stress, or finally getting a full night's sleep, a true multitasker with benefits that go way beyond the buzz. This doctor's a great writer, by the way, too. I mean, I liked everything he's writing so far. Putting the story together, you know. Chronic pain relief. Whether it's arthritis, making you creaky, or migraines that feel like your brain is auditioning for the heavy metal band, THC steps in with this unique skill. It changes how your body interprets pain. It doesn't just dull the sensation, it alters your perception, making that persistent ache less of a front row performer in your day.
Yep.
Relaxation and joy. Let's be honest. Life post-pandemic can feel like a never-ending to-do list, sprinkled with the new level of existential dread. THC has the uncanny superpower to turn down the volume on stress, helping you unwind in a way that feels effortless. Amen. And for those who could use a reminder that laughter is needed and is indeed the best medicine, some forms of THC have a welcome knack for delivering some uncontrollable giggles that make your cheeks hurt in a great way. Sleep support. Sleep. The elusive prize we're all endlessly chasing. THC helps you not only drift off faster, but stay in dreamland longer. When paired with CBD, the two work like a well-oiled team, calming the mind, soothing the body, and gently nudging you toward the restorative rest you deserve. CBD, wellness without the high. To this doctor, writing about CBD often feels like describing the quiet sibling in the cannabis family. Steady, reliable, and always there when you need a calming hand, but nobody really gets exactly what you do with it. Unlike THC, it doesn't get you high, but that's part of its charm. CBD offers many of the same therapeutic benefits, but with the kind of clarity that lets you tackle your to-do list or simply enjoy your day without interruption. It's the wellness companion you didn't know you needed. An important bottom line that isn't obvious from the world's markets. Many people need a lot of CBD or frequent dosing to achieve common goals. The people who give CBD the stink eye or call it snake oil. This is the same sort of situation where someone jumps on the treadmill for 5 minutes a day and wonders why they're not getting fit. Stress and anxiety relief. Let's face it, stress feels like baked into the modern life. No matter what you do, what you look like, or how much money you have or don't. Whether it's the endless flood of emails or the uncertainty of what's next, anxiety can sneak in like an unwelcome guest. CBD steps in with a natural, calming presence, helping to regulate cortisol, your body's stress hormone, and taking the edge off. It doesn't just numb you, and certainly does not numb. That's just a turn of phrase. It balances you, letting you face the day with a little bit more ease. Inflammation and pain. Chronic pain and inflammation are relentless, whether it's in an achy back, post-workout soreness, or the challenges of autoimmune conditions. CBD's anti-inflammatory properties get to work. It doesn't just mask the pain. It works deeper, addressing the root of inflammation and giving your body a chance to recover. For joint pain, muscle fatigue, and even more complex conditions, CBD is quite the achiever in the wellness world. Improve sleep. If anxiety and stress are the noisy upstairs neighbors, CBD might not chase them out completely, but it does help muffle the racket. It takes the edge off the mental chatter, easing you toward a calmer state where rest feels possible. While it doesn't guarantee a flawless night of sleep, for many, it's the nudge they need to relax and settle in without the grogginess or side effects that often come with over-the-counter sleep aids. It's not a magic wand, but it can be a reliable tool in the fight for a better rest. Other cannabinoids worth your attention. CBD may be the headline act. It's the cannabinoid that the U.S. Farm Bill made legal in all 50 states in 2018. But there are other stars in the cannabinoid show that are making waves. Think of the few rows at a ball game. Not yet a whole stadium for the unique benefits. CBC, a lesser-known gem that shows potential for promoting I'm going to butcher this, sorry everybody, neurogenesis. Oh, I got it right. The creation of new brain cells and reducing inflammation. It's like a health boost for both your brain and body. CBG, known as the mother of all cannabinoids because it's the precursor for many others. CBG shows promise for gut health, antibacterial properties, and reducing anxiety. It's a gut and brain-friendly powerhouse. That's the only two he mentioned, but there's also CBN, THCV. I can keep on going on and on and on. But we've talked about them on prior shows, so take a listen. CBD and its cannabinoid cousins are redefining what it means to feel well, calm, pain-free, and balanced. They're proof that you don't need the high to unlock the benefits of cannabis. Just a willingness to explore what's possible. The entourage effect. Why whole plant products work best. Cannabis contains over 100 cannabinoids and terpenes. Some estimate approach 1,000. All which interact synergistically in what's known as the entourage effect. This means full-spectrum products containing multiple cannabinoids and terpenes often work better than isolates like pure CBD, for example. THC and CBD together. CBD can reduce THC psychoactive effects, providing balance or relief without overwhelming intoxication. Mrs. Weedman, on Friday, you always bring your bottle of CBD with you. When we're going to leave, an hour before we leave, you pop a nice, a couple hundred milligrams?
No, I think it was like 50 milligrams.
50 mil? That's still a good amount.
Yeah, just to knock down the THC.
Pops you right back in the, ready to go. Yeah. Ready to go. Terpenes. Compounds like myrcene, my favorite, for relaxation. Limonene for mood enhancement, further enhance the effects of cannabinoids. Think of it like a band. While a solo musician might give a decent performance, a full orchestra creates a rich, layered experience where every instrument plays a role. The violins might carry the melody, the cellos and flutes fill in the harmony, and the percussion gives all its rhythm. Full-spectrum cannabis is the orchestra, with cannabinoids and terpenes playing in perfect harmony to deliver a more effective and balanced experience. Mrs. Weedman, that gave you a nice 10-minute break to get your mind clear, right? And ready to go for your turn?
I'm still pretty baked.
All right. So
it's okay.
Mrs. Weedman's going to take over this next forum, and the first one she's going to talk about is how cannabis can transform healthcare.
Yeah. So Mr. Weedman went over the ins and outs, like the 101 of cannabis, CBD, hemp, so that you can understand that. Now we're going to talk about how cannabis is really changing the face of the world, like in a lot of ways.
I gave the meat. You're giving the potatoes.
Yeah. So we're going to start with
I'm
healthcare.
a meat person. You're a carb girl. Perfect.
Yes. We're going to start with healthcare. To anyone paying attention, the healthcare system feels like it's teetering on the edge of burnout. From an endless mental health crisis to an opioid epidemic that just won't quit. It's like we're trying to patch a sinking ship with duct tape. While some people are using prayer and bullets to fix it, others are shouting from their armchairs that duct tape is bad for the environment. Providers are overworked, patients are underserved, and the system is crying out for reinforcements. Enter cannabis, a quiet, unassuming solution with the potential to lighten the load. It's not here to replace doctors or overhaul the system overnight, but it can offer a welcome measure of relief for chronic pain, anxiety, and insomnia, some of the great burdens for most people as we age, freeing up resources for the bigger battles. In a world where so many answers come with the side of risk, cannabis stands out as a gentle, versatile ally, ready to lend a hand. It can provide mental health support. Anxiety, depression, and insomnia are leading reasons people seek medical cannabis. CBD in particular offers rapid relief for anxiety without the side effects of benzodiazepines like Xanax, Valium, or Ativan. For many, cannabis fills the gap when therapy or psychiatric care isn't immediately available, especially now when finding a mental health care provider or a primary care provider feels like trying to book a table at the trendiest restaurant in town. It seems impossible unless you've called months ago or know somebody on the inside. Cannabis can actually aid in chronic pain management, another area where it has power. Cannabis offers a powerful and much-needed alternative to opioids, providing effective pain relief without the shadow of addiction or the life-threatening risk of overdose. Unlike opioids, which can hijack the brain's reward system and lead to dependency, cannabis interacts more gently with the body's endocannabinoid system to alter pain perception and reduce inflammation, like Mr. Weedman was saying. This makes it particularly appealing for chronic pain conditions like arthritis, fibromyalgia, or back pain, cases where long-term opioid use can do more harm than good. The impact of legal cannabis speaks volumes. In states where it's available, opioid prescriptions have dropped by as much as 30%. That's amazing, signaling a clear shift towards safer pain management options. Cannabis isn't just another tool in the pain relief toolbox. It's an option that can help turn the tide of the opioid epidemic, giving people relief without the devastating costs. How about improving your sleep naturally? Cannabis has emerged as a natural ally in the battle for better sleep, helping to regulate sleep cycles and restore a sense of balance to restless nights. Unlike over-the-counter sleep aids or prescription medication like Ambien, which can leave you feeling groggy, disoriented, or even dependent, cannabis works with your body's natural rhythms to promote rest. Cannabinoids like THC and CBD help calm the mind and relax the body, making it easier to drift off and stay asleep without the side effects of traditional options. For those caught in the frustrating cycle of sleeplessness and ineffective remedies, cannabis offers a gentler, more sustainable solution to reclaim the restorative power of a good night's sleep. There's also societal benefits with cannabis legalization. Beyond personal health, cannabis legalization has far-reaching societal and economic impacts. Cannabis isn't just changing individuals' lives. It's transforming communities, creating opportunities, and bolstering public resources on a remarkable scale. There's economic growth, job creation. Over 400,000 jobs have been created in the U.S. alone, spanning cultivation, production, testing, retail, delivery. There's diverse roles, positions ranging from skilled horticulturists and extraction technicians to marketing experts and compliance officers. There are small business opportunities. Legalization has opened doors for entrepreneurs in dispensaries, edibles, accessories, and cannabis tourism. There's a community impact. Many cannabis businesses prioritize local hiring, boosting employment in their own communities. And there are ancillary markets. Growth is happening in support of industries like security, software, packaging, and legal services tied to cannabis. And we've all heard about the tax revenue because we're paying the crazy taxes at the dispensaries. There have been billions collected. States like California, Colorado, and Illinois report cannabis tax revenue in the billions annually. Education funding. Significant portions of cannabis taxes are earmarked. I don't know that they always get there, but they're earmarked for schools, scholarships, and early childhood programs. Public health programs, revenues fund addiction treatment, mental health services, and community health initiatives. And it bolsters infrastructure improvements for roads, parks, and public transportation systems with the reinvestment of the cannabis tax dollars. And there's a debt reduction. Some states use cannabis taxes to pay down state debt, easing financial burdens on taxpayers. Another important effect of legalization is criminal justice reform. Legalization dramatically reduces arrests for minor possession, chipping away at a system that has disproportionately targeted marginalized communities for decades. By decriminalizing cannabis, we're not just keeping people out of jail for nonviolent offenses, we're taking a tangible step toward addressing deep-seated systemic inequalities in law enforcement. It means fewer lives disrupted, fewer families torn apart, and fewer communities burdened by unjust criminal records. Legalization sends a clear message. It's time to stop punishing people for what is now a regulated, lawful activity and start correcting the inequities of the past. You might wonder why there's still a stigma.
I'm still wondering, Mrs. Weedman.
Why there's still a stigma around cannabis? How about it?
Still wondering.
Yeah.
We're still trying to stop the stigma.
If cannabis is so beneficial, why does controversy still cling to it like a stubborn shadow? The answer weaves through a tangled history of misinformation, gaps in medical education, and deeply ingrained cultural stigma. First, there's a history of suppression. In the 1930s, to be exact, the 1937 Cannabis Tax Act, 8 decades ago, specifically, it shifted the use and acceptance of the plant. Cannabis was demonized through a carefully orchestrated campaign of political propaganda and corporate lobbying. In reality, industries like alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceuticals saw cannabis as a direct threat, and that's exactly what's happening right now, to their profits, and they worked tirelessly to paint it as a dangerous criminal substance. This effort wasn't just about health concerns, it was about preserving their market dominance at any cost. Still an issue. The myths they created took root in public perception, and despite growing evidence to the contrary, many of these misconceptions still shape policies and opinions today. And then we have a lack of education. Even though the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS, was discovered in the 1990s, it remains glaringly absent from most medical school curriculum. Instead of being taught about this critical regulatory system, doctors often rely on outdated information, or worse, no information at all, passed down through textbooks that have overlooked cannabis's role in human physiology. Without formal education on how the endocannabinoid system functions or how cannabinoids interact with it, many physicians default to skepticism or the negative stereotypes they've absorbed from years of stigmatized messaging. This knowledge gap doesn't just perpetuate stigma, it actively hinders progress in integrating cannabis as a legitimate medical tool, leaving patients to educate their own doctors or turn elsewhere for guidance. And there are, of course, cultural misconceptions. For decades, cannabis was labeled a drug rather than a medicine, a distinction loaded with stigma and fear rather than science. This branding painted it as a substance to be hidden, whispered about, or outright avoided, rather than understood or embraced for its potential benefits. Even today, many people still feel judged for using it, often opting to consume privately, away from prying eyes and potential criticism. The lingering effects of this societal judgment have stifled open conversations, leaving misinformation to flourish and forcing individuals to navigate their cannabis use in isolation, rather than with the support and understanding they deserve. Now, let's move on to some myth busting, breaking down what cannabis is and isn't. Cannabis myths are like bad internet rumors. They sound scary, they spread quickly, and they crumble under any real scrutiny. Isn't that the truth? Mm-hmm. Cannabis isn't perfect, but it's far from the misunderstood villain it's often made out to be. The real story is nuanced, fascinating, and, spoiler alert, probably a lot less scandalous than those myths would have you believe. Let's set the record straight and toss a few of these into the compost pile where they belong. Here we go. Myth number 1. Cannabis is addictive. Okay, let's be real. Anything can be habit forming if you overdo it. While heavy cannabis use can lead to psychological dependence for some, its addiction potential is far lower than the heavy hitters like alcohol, tobacco, or opioids. And let's not forget, no one's getting a patch or a 12-step program to quit kale smoothies, right? Moderation is key. Okay.
Mrs. Weedman preaches that.
Yes. People can be addicted to health and wellness and, dieting. Like, there's so many things. Like dieting in a good way. Like, whatever. You could be addicted to a whole shit ton of things. Cannabis isn't one of them. I think that you could get caught up in, like, a habitual thing with it, but yeah, I was using a shit ton of it when I was really feeling crappy a couple months back and beyond. And then I started feeling better and I didn't need it as much. Because you use it
as medicine.
Right. And then I didn't, but I do use it recreationally too.
I know.
But I just don't need it as much. So I can go back to my CBD during the day and THC in the evening, and I'm not looking for it every 5 minutes because I feel shitty. And that just clearly tells me that it wasn't an addiction. I wasn't developing an overconsumption problem. I was using it because it was medically helping me.
Yeah.
And then as soon as my body didn't need it, it was like my brain was just like, like I wasn't grabbing for it. Right. So it definitely was not an addiction, right?
You needed your medicine.
That's my own personal, right. It was just, Anyway, another myth. Cannabis harms mental health. The classic fearmonger myth. Research shows, does anybody that's watching us right now see Mr. Weedman sniffing on his nose stuff?
The boom boom.
He's addicted to the boom boom.
I'm addicted to the boom boom.
As we just finished talking about things not being addicted
to it, just helping my
It's
nose.
habit forming.
It's stuffy. My nose is stuffy.
It's supposed to be a 1 to 2 second, like.
I did it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
You'll see him in the corner like.
It's my boom boom.
It's got his boom boom.
Boom boom.
Look it up.
Boom boom.
All right. So back to this. The cannabis harms mental health. Okay. Research shows that for most adults, moderate cannabis use actually reduces anxiety and stress, essentially giving your frazzled brain a chance to chill. Yes. Risks can be higher for adolescents or those who overindulge, but responsible consumption offers a lot more benefits than banishing you to the mental health penalty box. And then how about that myth that CBD doesn't work without THC? Let's debunk this one quickly. CBD is fully capable of pulling its own weight. It's been shown to reduce anxiety, improve sleep, and tackle inflammation like a pro. That said, full spectrum CBD products. That means they have a little bit of THC and other cannabinoids mixed in. They do tend to work like a super team, but if you're avoiding THC altogether, CBD can still be a good solo cannabinoid to get the job done. Now let's talk about exploring cannabis safely. All right, so anyone who hasn't consumed and is considering it, or if you have a friend who is considering it, this would be good for them to hear. You might be ready to try cannabis, so let's talk about getting started. New to it and feeling like you'll give this a shot? Great. But before you dive in, you should make sure you are prepared with tools, knowledge, and the mindset that boosts your chances of making your first experience a positive one. Whether you're curious about relaxation, better sleep, pain relief, or just exploring something new, here's a micro guide to help you navigate the initial steps with some bearings. With some bearings. Did you hear how I said that?
I did.
Bearings. 1, start with small amounts. Advance dosing and frequency patiently. Exercise, sleep, nutrition, and cannabis medicine isn't a sprint, it's a stroll. Start with a low dose, whether it's THC, CBD, or a combination, and see how your body responds. You can always add more, but it's very hard to undo it. Think of it like adding salt to your cooking. A pinch is perfect, but too much can overwhelm the dish. Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
2, choose the right product for your needs. Oils and tinctures, a great starting point for stress, sleep, or pain relief. They're easy to measure and act relatively quickly. Also, it's very easy to increase by drops that are easy to measure and see. A tad on the awkward side to drip drops of oil into your mouth, but keep your eye on the prize, okay? Topicals, perfect for localized issues like sore muscles or joint pain, and they don't enter your bloodstream. It can be tough to find a well-made topical, and there are thousands of companies that will rip you off in a heartbeat. But the good topicals out there will convince even the most skeptical cannabis haters to change their tune. And for whatever reason, topicals never seem too scary to try. Edibles, long-lasting, discreet, often delicious, but patience is the name of the game. And so many people currently are introducing cannabis into their life or beginning their cannabis journey with edibles. So it really is a go slow, take your time kind of thing, okay? They can take an hour, sometimes 2 to kick in, so resist the urge to top off. If you're not feeling anything right away, just wait. Doubling up too soon is the classic rookie mistake, one that's been humbling first-timers for a few millennia. So trust the process. Your moment will come. 3, understanding CBD. Learn the differences between full spectrum, broad spectrum, and isolates. Navigating cannabis products can feel like deciphering a coffee shop menu. There are so many options, but which one is for you? Here's a little cheat sheet. Full spectrum. This is the whole band experience. It contains all, you talked about this a little too. Mm-hmm. It contains all cannabinoids and terpenes for the full entourage effect, where everything works together harmoniously. Great if you're okay with a little THC hanging along. Think of it as the tambourine player who quietly enhances the performance. Broad spectrum. No THC, but all of the other good stuff stays in the mix. It's the decaf of cannabis products. Balanced, effective, and perfect for those who want to avoid THC but still enjoy a richer experience. So that's a CBD broad spectrum. No THC in it, but it has other cannabinoids that are beneficial. Isolates. This is probably the most common thing you're going to find, especially if you're not buying your stuff from a reputable place. Isolates are pure CBD or THC and nothing else. So if you're new to this, cannabis has a lot of other beneficial cannabinoids and terpenes and things. This will all make sense to you eventually. Those things, when you're having an isolate, it is all CBD or it is all THC, and that's all it is. Basically, that's it. It's just stripped down one cannabinoid. So you're not getting this kind of what we call the entourage effect. It's not the worst thing, but you're not really, in my opinion, experiencing the full effect of what cannabis can do for you, or CBD for that matter. So an isolate, it has a place. Pure CBD or THC, nothing else. It's ideal if you're laser focused on one effect and want to skip the extras. Think of it as a single origin espresso of cannabis. Clean, precise, to the point. Now you can pick your spectrum like a pro, minus the head scratching and second guessing. Okay? Find a reputable brand. This is important. Not all cannabis products are created equal. Look for companies that use and publicly share the results of their third-party lab testing and provide clear ingredient labels. A trustworthy brand will never leave you guessing about what's in their product. If something feels off, trust your instincts and move on. Be patient and pay attention. Cannabis is a personal journey. Keep a journal to track how different products and doses make you feel.
Kind of funny. You were just talking about that the other day. You need to keep a journal.
Yeah. It isn't about just finding what works. It's about understanding what works for you. Cannabis is a vast, fascinating world with so much to explore. If you're ready to dive deeper into the science, practical tips, and everything else that you didn't know you needed, there's plenty of information available to help you along the way. Start small, stay curious, and remember, this journey is yours to shape. Now we're going to move on to its effect on global and environmental perspectives. As cannabis goes global, it's creating a movement, redefining health and policy. Thankfully, the world is catching on to what a bold but stubborn few have known for centuries. Cannabis is more than a plant. It's a catalyst for change. Countries like Canada, Germany, Uruguay, Israel, Portugal, the Netherlands, Czech Republic, South Africa, Jamaica, Mexico, Malta, and Thailand are blazing the trail with progressive legalization, offering models for policy, research, and economic integration. Germany is pioneering cannabis as a pillar of healthcare, while Thailand is embracing its cultural roots by integrating cannabis into traditional medicine. Meanwhile, Canada's robust legalization framework demonstrates how cannabis can be regulated safely while creating economic opportunities. Each step forward on the global stage chips away at outdated stigma, replacing it with innovation, health, and sustainability. But not every country is moving at the same pace. USA. Despite being home to some of the world's most progressive industries and technologies, the United States still manages to tie itself in knots over cannabis laws that vary wildly from one state to the next. It's like playing Monopoly, but every state has its own version of rules, and someone keeps flipping the board. While other nations are busy innovating and building equitable policies, the U.S. seems stuck in a game of will they, won't they, with federal legalization. And let's not forget about sustainability and hemp. Although we've focused much of this article on cannabis, let's not forget about hemp, the sister plant who's quietly becoming a superstar in the fight for environmental sustainability. If cannabis is the multi-tool for personal health, hemp is the all-star for planetary health, tackling big picture challenges with the kind of versatility that would make Swiss Army knives jealous. It provides carbon sequestration. Yeah, that's a big one. Hemp absorbs more carbon dioxide than most crops, acting like nature's air purifier. It grows fast, thrives in various climates, and doesn't require harsh pesticides, making it one of the most sustainable plants on Earth. It has versatile uses. Hemp can do it all. Biodegradable plastics, durable textiles, eco-friendly paper, even construction materials like hempcrete. It's like the Swiss Army knife of crops, offering alternatives to industries that rely on harmful fossil fuels. Yes, harmful fossil fuels. There's also soil regeneration. Hemp's deep roots can repair degraded soil and prevent erosion, making it a valuable tool for sustainable agriculture. Imagine a future where hemp doesn't just replace plastic packaging, but revolutionizes how we think about sustainable materials altogether. Picture carbon-neutral homes built from hempcrete, fields once barren, now thriving thanks to hemp's soil-repairing roots, and biodegradable products that leave no trace behind. This isn't just an exciting vision. It is an essential shift for a planet that desperately needs smarter, greener solutions. Hemp isn't just part of the future, it is a cornerstone of the one we need to build. This plant, be it hemp or cannabis, is a healer of the earth and the people. I hope you're able to give it a try and find positive ways to incorporate it into your life.
That was a wonderful article.
Yeah.
That doctor did a fantastic job with the writing, the information. You know, I just...
he just kind of encapsulated a nice little summary of it all.
Just fucking dial it in into one nice little thing. So if you have anybody out there that doesn't understand cannabis or wants to get into cannabis, that little segment right there that took a little bit...
should be helpful.
Yes, very helpful. Thanks, Mrs. Weedman, for sharing that article with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Hey, everybody, check out 8decades.com, our cannabis lifestyle brand that Mrs. Weedman created. Go to 8decades.com for all your cannabis needs and accessory lines out there. Clothing, 8 Decades clothing, Weedman 420 clothing. We also have our fabulous smoke set. That's dishwasher safe, 16-gauge stainless steel. You'll never need another smoke set ever again after this. We have grinders. We have everybody loves the steamroller that we have. And we have scarves, winter hats. Check out that right now. Free shipping over $100, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so check out 8decades.com, everybody. Mrs. Weedman's baby. It is a wonderful product. And we didn't mention this early in the show, and I apologize to all of our people that we know in L.A. We're praying for you, and we're thinking about you. To everybody out there that's been affected by these fires, man, like I said, we're praying for you all out there, and hopefully you can get through this. You and your families are safe is the most important thing. Stuff can always be replaced. Your lives can't.
I think from what I'm seeing with the impact, obviously people are traumatized by this. This was really a terrible, terrible event. But overall, it's kind of the unanimous spirit of, like, we will come back and we will help each other is prevailing. And I'm just hearing, like, one silver lining story after another. And people are really finding just such small things are becoming enough to help them get through this at this point, right? It's just it's nice. It's nice to see people coming together and helping one another. But it's very sad. It's very sad to see the devastation.
Yes, I mean, you got what's going on in California, LA, what's still going on in North Carolina, what's still happening in Florida.
They still have like 9,000 people
Tennessee,
out of a home.
South Carolina,
Florida,
all Georgia, that all got hit. You know, all that area from that hurricane.
Hawaii.
Hawaii with their fires. Nothing. You know, we pray for everybody out there. If we didn't mention you, we love you, and we're praying that your health and your safety is the number one important thing.
Yep.
Like I said, you can always replace stuff. Cannabis industry, getting hurt out there. Things are on fire, But as long as you and your staff and your employees and the people that work for you and work with you are safe, you can always replace it. I know it sucks and it's hard, but we love you out there. We're praying for each and every day these fires get put out. So, newly identified risk could deter heavy weed use. A large majority of stoners will say they smoke weed to relieve stress. Certain cannabis strains are regarded as best for attention, while others swear by nightly edible. There's some research supporting the idea that weed works for stress, indicating the lower doses of THC and higher CBD are ideal, mirroring the article we just read. It even made nervous dogs feel less overwhelmed. However, the rich tapestry of cannabis stress studies tell many tales. One research analysis shows that weed may have the wrong effect under certain circumstances, though. Research covers stress responses in cannabis use. 2 researchers consulted a current paper and studies to understand stress response regulators. At the same time, they logged data on cannabis exposure and patterns related to stress. The goal was to find a correlation between stress responses and cannabis use. Life circumstances that would amplify anxieties were also taken into account. A noteworthy limitation is that few use non-cannabis consuming control groups. Still, the findings provide food for thought. The study found that high THC products raise the heart rate and may increase cortisol and stress response. This happened about 15 minutes after consumption and lasted around an hour and a half. These results were not consistent with across all research. On the flip side, CBD studies suggest that cannabinoid reduces stress, anxiety, and tension. We've been seeing this a lot lately. I've actually been talking to a lot of people lately that can't smoke weed anymore because it gives them high anxiety or it makes them very paranoid, and they have that disorder now. And some people with the hyperkinesis syndrome. Our bodies weren't made to take in a lot of that high THC. What we talked about and explained in that last article, there was your use. It's moderation and what you need to do to make sure you're not overdoing it. Body does not need 35, 40% and all these fucking pens and shit that are 87 and 92%. Your body wasn't meant to take that high of a dose if you don't need it. And this is why it was giving people induced anxiety, is what they're calling it, cannabis-induced anxiety, because you should be doing lower doses. Your body's telling you something. Don't smoke this fucking high dose of cannabis. It's not going to be good.
But some people even get it, like I have a sister who can have a 5, sometimes a 10 milligram gummy and be fine. But when she consumes flour, she gets nauseous.
20%. 22%. Yeah. Didn't she smoke that infused joint?
Yeah.
Her body's not ready for that. So she's just hitting
too high.
Yeah. You give her here's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day. Everybody says that it's not your father's cannabis anymore, your grandfather's cannabis. They were smoking 2 to 5% cannabis back in the 70s and 60s and 50s and maybe 6% at some heights. They were still getting high.
Right.
I watched my dad get baked at my age, and he was high. And if that cannabis was 2 to 4%, it worked really well for him. And he wasn't smoking 4 or 5 joints. He'd smoke a joint would go around with all of his buddies, and they'd all be high. Crazy, right?
Right.
And in the in the late 80s and 90s, when I started smoking, you know, and especially like in the 90s, the cannabis I was probably smoking was 8 to 12%. 15 maybe at the highest, and I thought, I mean, those 15% strains sometimes fucked me up.
Right.
And I like the lower dose, and I've said it all the time. So I mean, we took cannabis to, and I talked about this with Big Earl. We took this plant and took it to a different level. I don't think this plant was made to do. Just my personal opinion, and I love hash. Don't get me wrong, but smoking a distillate cart that's 92%, your body was not made to smoke that.
It just sounds terrible.
And that's what they're selling out there right now. That's what people want. And meanwhile, the cannabis back in the 60s, 50s, whenever, was 2 to 4%. People were fucking feeling great.
Right.
That's what the endocannabinoid system wants. It doesn't need
I
that.
like the 15, 17.
It's fucking lovely. It's just a pleasant high. Yeah. And that's what I want. I'm going to be fucking... Now, all of a sudden, I got anxiety and I'm paranoid. That's not an enjoyment, you know? Stress and chronic weed use. Things got a little more interesting when they brought heavy use into question. 7 studies dating from 1970 to 2020 show that consuming cannabis daily for 1 to 1.5 years led to blunted stress response. This translates into reduced endocrine or cardiovascular effort in the event of tense situations or feelings. Blunted stress responses are linked to various issues, including depression, lower resilience, obesity, and addiction. Basically, the data showed that people smoke weed for stress, which reduces their body's ability to respond in the very issue. In turn, tensions increase. They smoke weed to alleviate it, and the snake eats its own tail. Longtime stoners may be aghast, but never fear. There are ways to reduce the risk. Be kind to the body and reducing cortisol levels, like in the last article just said too. Cortisol, thank you. And it can help offset a blunted stress response. Get lots of rest, regular exercise, engage in introspection to identify stressful thinking patterns, and breath work, among other habits. The review concludes that the relationship between weed and stress goes both ways. Stress promotes cannabis use, while the use impacts how the body responds to tension, and the circle goes round and round. For longtime weed lovers, perhaps the answer is seeking stress relief with lower doses, less consumption, and making sure your body is used to what you're taking in. And then also stress relief from outside sources before turning back, you know, to always running to it. You know, do some meditation. And it's just saying that if you use it as a medication, if you're using it as a daily basis for stress relief, don't overdo it. You know, just like we talked about in the last article, it's there to help you, but just don't overdo it. When I see research like this, I have to talk about it. You know, whether the research in the last article and the research here, the more we know, the more we can learn what's best for our bodies. Right?
Yeah. So. And I think while you were talking about that, I think what did happen was that people's tolerances expanded, and they needed higher dose. But then also people who are using it medically, when you're in your like late stage of life, if you're in pain and you're dying of cancer, your other option is morphine. Right. So you're on you're on like spoonfuls of RSO.
That's the meds you need.
Right. So these things, my point being that these high quantity THC products, whether it's flower, pens, concentrates, whatever, it became that probably from both long-term use and the medical kind of sector of people using cannabis.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just don't think our bodies...
I think, like maybe that's when...
Some of us, I should say.
Yeah, well, maybe that is the thing. Like when, you know, if we get to that point where we're, you're requiring, 100 milligrams to feel even the slightest bit of baked,
right,
then maybe that's when you're supposed to do like a 3-week tolerance break, and you just go on like a straight CBD protocol, and you flush your body with CBD or maybe nothing for 3 weeks, and then see if you can get back down to maybe a 20 milligram.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different
people
avenues.
have success. We've only taken a tolerance break for a few days at a time. We've never done a long-term one, but our tolerance has also grown very slowly.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
I mean, it's definitely much more than it ever was. But
it's not. I mean, for us, we smoke a joint between the two of us,
right? And we're baked.
And
baked.
We're ready for bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But during the day, we might take like 2 or 3 hits each of a joint, and then put it down, and maybe go back to it an hour and a half later. It's just what your body needs. You're doing your body a disservice by overwhelming it with so much, too much.
Yeah, maybe not getting all of the benefits you could be getting.
Right. Yeah. This is you, Mrs. Weedman.
Oh.
Surprising data shows pot impact on mental health now.
How about that?
Tell us about it.
Yep. Not every cannabis user will develop psychosis, but for some, the risks are high. Our research helps clarify why. Senior study author Dr. Romina Mizrahi said in a press release. Mizrahi and fellow researchers analyzed data from 49 participants between the ages of 16 and 30. Some of the participants had experienced recent symptoms of psychosis, while others were considered high risk. A control group without signs of psychosis were also included. None of the volunteers were on any antipsychotic medication, and the only substance they tested positive for was cannabis. Scientists reviewed psychiatric and medical screenings as well as brain scans of all of the participants. The team honed in on the synaptic density, aka the number of connections between neurons and the brain.
Pretty good there, Ms. Weedman.
By looking at levels of a protein called the SV2A. When levels are higher, there are more synapses firing. If there's a depletion, depression can set in. The team discovered that participants exhibiting psychotic symptoms tended to have lower synaptic density than the control group. They also found that cannabis can deplete the SV2A levels, in line with a similar study released in 2020. Furthermore, researchers discovered cannabis consumption affected a specific region of the brain linked to psychotic episodes. Cannabis appears to disrupt the brain's natural processing of refining and pruning synapses, which is essential for healthy brain development, Mizrahi said. The study did not necessarily prove that cannabis caused lower synaptic density in psychosis patients, but the correlation between the SV2A levels may guide future research. The McGill team hopes the findings will enable physicians to identify those at higher risk of developing psychosis and potentially deploy early intervention strategies. While more research is needed to cement the data, the study is moving the conversation around marijuana and mental health forward.
Sweet.
Interesting.
Political, state, and business news. New hemp bills introduced in Illinois. And also J.B. Pritzker is very upset with the state.
Oh, yeah.
Very upset. He's very disappointed in all of us in this state. And a bunch of people were yelling in the middle of Springfield, the state capitol house. And he felt very, very, very ashamed of us as cannabis users and hemp users.
Good job, activists. We know a bunch of you that were there. You guys did a wonderful job.
Yes. So a battle between Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson over hemp regulations left two bills, HB 4293 and HB 5903, without a vote. Now, two new bills are introduced, HB 0064 and 0001. 64 aligns with federal law and regulations hemp products without altering the federal definition between hemp shareholders, focuses on age restrictions requiring licenses for selling hemp products to consumers 21 or older, enforces penalties for violations overseen by state departments. The debate continues in the 104th General Assembly. Indiana lawmakers filed bills to legalize marijuana and fund psilocybin research in 2025. Illinois lawmakers have introduced several bills in 2025. Marijuana legislation, Senator Bill 113, introduced by Senator Rodney Pohl. The bill seeks to legalize both recreational and medical cannabis in Indiana. House Bill 1332, sponsored by Representative Blake Johnson. The legislation also aims to establish a regulatory framework for adult-use marijuana with Cannabis Commission overseeing the program. It proposes a 10% excise tax on marijuana in addition to the state's 7% tax. House Bill 1145, introduced by Representative Health Van Nader. This bill proposes decriminalizing possession of up to 2 ounces of cannabis and increasing the felony threshold of possession from 30 grams to 4 ounces. House Bill 1178, sponsored by Representative Jim Lucas and Shane Lindauer. The legislation aims to create medical cannabis programs for individuals with serious medical conditions as determined by their physician. No home grow on there. What's wrong with you? Psilocybin funding, no. Bill 1166 by Justin Mowat and Jake Teska. The bill proposes appropriating a total of $600,000 in 2025 and 2026 fiscal years to support on existing psilocybin research program. These efforts reflect a growing interest in policy reform in Indiana, with such as on both legalization of marijuana and exploitation of psilocybin as therapeutic treatment. Michigan recreational cannabis market hits $3 billion milestone as growth slows and prices drop. Licensed retailers brought in $3.27 billion in recreational cannabis in 2024, a 9.9% increase from $2.098 billion in 2023, according to Michigan Cannabis Regulatory Agency. Don't even cry about that. Don't even be mad and upset. $3.27 billion. December's numbers alone accounted for $264.7 million, pushing Michigan's total recreational sales since adult use legalization in December of 2019 past, get ready, drum roll please, $10.2 billion since 2019. There are more than 2,255 recreational cannabis licenses in Michigan. Only California and Colorado and Washington have crossed the $10 billion mark in cumulative recreational use sales. That's a lot of moolah. Yeah. Ohio recreational marijuana sales exceeded $242 million at the end of 2024. That's pretty good for only being in business for like not even half the year. Fatal traffic crashes linked to marijuana fell by 30% in Ohio last year, also as legalization took effect, contrary to opponents' fears that according to new preliminary data from the Ohio State Highway Patrol, which found that proportion of impaired drivers suspected to be under the influence of marijuana also declined compared to 2023. Way to go, Ohio. Recreational marijuana.
Is that a song?
I think so. There's the Ohio Players, right? Recreational marijuana snags could delay opening of Minnesota dispensaries for months. Marijuana dispensaries delayed. Minnesota recreational marijuana dispensaries were supposed to open sometime in early 25, but Senator Mark Corrin told 5 Eyewitness News there will likely be significant delays in the process. Corrin said that the recent court ruling stopped the issue of licenses for people who wish to sell and grow marijuana for adult use recreational market until state lawmakers approve rules and policies for the program. Kind of sounds like Alabama, which could take months. There's always some nuances when they're starting a new business, just like with any other industry. So I think it's fair to say that we're not looking at doors opening until the beginning of 2026. Wow, that's why there's so many lawsuits going on right now. They took that money, though, for those licenses, didn't you, Minnesota? You took that money. The only dispensaries allowed to sell legally recreational marijuana are located on tribal lands. Good for you. Good for you. Supply the people. DA judge cancels marijuana rescheduling hearings amid legal challenges, pushing back reform for at least 3 months. Great job. A DA judge has canceled upcoming hearings on marijuana rescheduling due to legal challenges, delaying reform by at least 3 months. The hearings initially scheduled for January 21st were intended to discuss the rescheduling of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. This change would acknowledge marijuana medical benefits and lower potential for abuse compared to other drugs. The delay is attributed to legal disputes, including allegations of conflicts of interest involving the DEA and its role in the rescheduling process. These challenges have prompted the cancellation of hearings, pushing back the potential reform timeline. As a result, the scheduling process is postponed, and the timeline to reform remains uncertain. We are looking bad right now. I mean, this is just fucking horrendous. USDA adds more hemp industry stakeholders to trade committee promoting the crop globally. Great. New Idaho bill would set mandatory minimum fine for marijuana possessions. Idaho, you will be the last state to legalize cannabis medically and recreationally. I hate to say it. Idaho Representative Bruce Skog had introduced a bill proposing a mandatory minimum of $300 for adults possessing 3 ounces or less of marijuana. The bill aims to deter marijuana use and prevent Idaho from becoming a marijuana state. Currently, Idaho law classifies possessions of 3 ounces of less of marijuana misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and fined up to $1,000. The proposed bill,
year in jail,
has been introduced to the House Judiciary and Rules Committee, which has voted unanimously to advance for the full public hearing and vote. So all this that you're doing, this minor amount of money,
so someone has an ounce, they have to go to jail for a year.
Could be.
They lose potentially their working, so they lose their job, and then come out with a felony. So now they're unemployable,
misdemeanor,
and so their whole life is like kind of fucked for probably about 10 years.
Yeah.
Because of a fucking ounce of weed.
An ounce of weed.
That is completely legal in a neighboring state.
Well, everyone goes to Oregon and fucking Washington.
It's so dumb.
Or Montana.
It's absurd.
Or Montana. Or Montana's only... I mean, it's just foolish of them.
Maddening.
And then there's probably traditional market. There's probably underground grows that they don't even know about. But you rather just bust somebody for $1,000, put them in taxpayer money, and put them in the system, and then taxpayer money goes to pay for them in the jail system, instead of earning tax on cannabis and making sure your constituents will get tax money for the roads and for everything that needs to be done in the state. So you rather do that and make minor amounts versus big amounts. So DoorDash will now deliver hemp, CBD, and THC products in response to growing demand to help customers unwind and recharge. Good for them. Miami welcomes its first medical marijuana dispensary after a decade-long regulatory struggle. That dispensary is going to be busy. Miami, can you believe Miami's getting their first dispensary?
Finally.
Their first med dispensary after a decade-long fight.
That's insane.
Insane. The most popular city in Florida. Didn't even have a dispensary in it.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, crazy. Appeals court to hear Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission license case. Okay. The Alabama Court of Civil Appeals is scheduled to hear arguments on February 11, 2025 at 10 a.m. regarding the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission licensing process. The hearing follows a temporary restraining order issued by Montgomery Circuit Court Judge James Anderson against the AMCC. Alabama, I love you. Feel sorry for you. New Mexico fines man $20,000 over Dixon marijuana giveaway. Says he lacked the retail license. Bernie Ellis, this cute man that I saw in the picture of him in November, gave away some weed he had grown because he did not like the price sellers were offering him to buy his crop. The state's Cannabis Control Division said he lacked retailer's license to give the weed away, and he eventually agreed to pay the $20,000 fine. Bernie Ellis, here's what I'm going to say. Shame on you, New Mexico. Shame. Fucking shame. Oh, my gosh. Salt Shed here in Chicago brings hemp drinks to its bars, and local cannabis companies bring in local hemp drinks to the venue. Our daughter works there. Dog.
She's a bartender. Yeah, she's going to be serving CBD drinks.
Yep,
go see her.
Go
tip her well. Tell her we sent you.
Yeah. Tell her Mr. and Mrs. Weedman sent you. She works the upstairs bar behind the stair, big seating area behind there. She works that bar up top. So, and just yell out, dog.
Yeah.
Conservation groups in Montana ready to defend marijuana tax revenue. Conservation groups in Montana are preparing to defend the allocation of marijuana tax revenue, which has significantly funded conservation programs since the legalization of recreational marijuana in 2021. These funds have supported public lands, wildlife, habitat restoration, and other environmental initiatives. The groups are concerned about potential legislative efforts to redirect these funds. No, don't. Which can impact ongoing conservation projects. Keep it in the conservation, please. The groups are organizing to ensure the marijuana tax revenue continue to support conservation efforts, emphasizing the importance of these funds for maintaining Montana's natural resources. Nearly half of adults use cannabis license issued in New Jersey awarded to minority-owned businesses. About 47% of the annual adult use cannabis licenses in Jersey have been awarded to majority minority-owned businesses, according to data from the State Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Hell yeah. Licensed New York City pot shops sue state in turf war over competition. Rug pulled out from underneath us. 4 licensed city pot shops have sued the state, claiming that cannabis regulators broke the law by not protecting their turf. The law says that shops can't be located 1,000 feet from each other in the Big Apple, a regulation designed to limit competition. Cannabis vaping devices and battery reclamation program. The Vermont Cannabis Control Board is launching a 6-month pilot program effective January 15, 2025 to explore reclamation programs for disposable cannabis vaping devices. The program aims to test the reclamation rate of devices made for compostable PLA-based plastic and removable and rechargeable batteries. Manufacturers must submit detailed plans to the CCB for approval, and consumers will pay a refundable $10 deposit for each device and battery. Sales data and device returns will be tracked, and the result will guide whether the program continues beyond July 15, 2025. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That needs to be done everywhere. 4 new conditions now eligible for medical cannabis in Illinois, including endometriosis, ovarian cyst, uterine fibroids. Uterine, thank you. And female orgasmic disorder. Mm-hmm. Great job, Illinois. Yeah. Federal courtroom reaffirms the ban on gun ownership for people who occasionally use marijuana is unconstitutional. Kentucky. Federal appeals court has reaffirmed that the ban on gun ownership for individuals who occasionally use marijuana is unconstitutional. This decision overturns a previous conviction under a federal law prohibiting firearms possession by unlawful users of controlled substances, including marijuana. The court emphasized that there is no historical precedent for disarming sober citizens not currently under the influence of drugs, drawing on a parallel of the lack of historical laws disarming regulatory drinkers. The ruling aligns with the growing body of legal opinions critically examine broad prohibited person statutes under the U.S. law. This case, U.S. v. Daniels, adds to this body of law, highlighting the need for a nuanced approach to firearm restrictions concerning marijuana use. The decisions underscores the ongoing legal debate surrounding the intersection of gun rights and marijuana use, reflecting a shift towards more individualized assessment rather than blanket prohibitions. Maine's hot cannabis market is beginning to mellow out. Maine set another record for recreational cannabis sales last year. Maine's cannabis sales reached $244 million in 2024, a 12% increase over 2023. The director of the Office of Cannabis Policy noted the growth is stabilizing rapid early gains. This trend mirrors other states like Colorado. Highlighted the need to reduce cannabis deserts by encouraging more towns to join the recreational market. However, some areas with too many dispensaries have seen closures. The price per gram of cannabis dropped 7% in 2024 due to overproduction, while producers facing raising operational costs. December caps a record-setting sales year for Missouri's marijuana market. Missouri's marijuana industry closed out 2024 with historic performance in December, achieving newly monthly sales record and solidifying its position as a top cannabis market in the United States. December marijuana sales reached $130.89 million, a 2.2% increase from the previous record of $128.7 million that was set in November. The record-breaking sales in December pushed its total sales to $1.46 billion. And that's the news, everybody. THC overdoses lands dispensary in legal trouble. Now, this is crazy.
Yeah.
We read when I sent this to you, I'm like, you're going to eat this up. Tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
Getting too high is not fun. The impact of consuming or inhaling large quantities of cannabis can be uncomfortable. For some, it may feel worthy of an emergency room visit. Well, that's what happened in Portland, Oregon. A novice consumer left a dispensary with a bottle of THC syrup and what he claims was some very questionable advice and an uncomfortable visit to the emergency room. Now, Sky Fitzgerald is suing that dispensary. Who served him? I don't know about that. Sky's THC overdose lawsuit alleges bad advice. He claims in his lawsuit that he walked into the dispensary with little to no knowledge of weed, and the bud tender instructed him to follow the instructions on the THC bottle. The label apparently recommended taking a capful of infused liquid. He went home, took this amount, which equates to around 1 teaspoon or 40 milligrams of THC. Most edible dosing experts recommend beginners start with 2.5 to 5 milligrams of the psychoactive cannabinoid. So 40, I wouldn't even be comfortable at 40 milligrams. No. The lawsuit claims that the resulting overdose experience, vomiting, elevated heart rate, extreme discomfort, low potassium, shortness of breath, loss of motor function, and inability to walk. I mean, I can have an inability to walk just being baked. It's like on my legs, on my body.
Last night.
Yeah, I'm like, they're not working. And then you like walk and you're like, oh yeah, I could totally walk. But they feel like bricks. So This landed Fitzgerald in the emergency room. During his hospital stay, his care providers observed that he could not walk without assistance. His doctors diagnosed him with THC overdose, the lawsuit reads. Fitzgerald is now demanding $10,000 in damages. God. From the Portland dispensary. As for the syrup, some may question how a label directing consumers to swallow 40 milligrams at a time ended up on a regulatory label on a dispensary shelf, but the lawsuit does not name the manufacturer. The store did remove the product from their menus immediately following the complaint. The dispensary denies the lawsuit claims, and the managing director holds that the bud tender only recommended the plaintiff take a few drops, not a capful. He explained to the Oregonian that everyone has different tolerance levels, so knowing how much THC each person should have is a hefty feat. The average person rarely asks a bartender how much alcohol will get them drunk.
I bartended for 23 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Never have I had that question asked me.
It's not the bud tender's fault. The Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, the OLCC, manages state weed regulations. It does not have a defined THC dose amount, but rules prevent edible labels from listing a serving size over 10 milligrams. The serving size rule does not apply to tinctures, concentrates, or extracts, however. The cannabis syrup in question was likely approved as a concentrate or tincture, not an edible, creating a loophole. Yet it's unclear why the label would recommend such a high dose. There are still so many lessons to learn, but I can assure you that bud tenders are trying to help consumers, not mislead them. This is me talking. It sounds like this was a mistake with the packaging instructions, and that needs to be fixed.
Some of the most important people in the industry right there.
Yeah.
International news, the Rastafarians opening up Caribbean cannabis farms to build a flourishing medical industry. In St. Vincent and Grenadines, Rastafarian farmers like Bobby Matthews and Estrado Robertson are cultivating premium cannabis on Globa Hill, a practice once due to anti-narcotic operations. Following a 2018 amnesty, the government now supports these growers, aiming to establish a robust medical cannabis industry. The initiative seeks to harness the plant's medical properties that stimulate economic growth.
Nice.
Some global cannabis law reforms in 2025. Despite the promising advances in 2024, 2025 may see increased resistance from conservative governments opposed to cannabis liberalization. Several countries may face setbacks or even a rollback their cannabis reforms. In Germany, while several municipalities, including Frankfurt, are moving forward with commercial cannabis pilot programs, the Christian Conservative Party, expected to gain control after February's snap elections, has indicated oppositions to further expansion, particularly Phase 2. Despite this, a poll showing 59% support for marijuana legalization suggests that a full reversal of Phase 1 is unlikely. Even if Christian conservatives take power, recriminalizing cannabis would be difficult without forming a coalition that includes pro-cannabis parties, which is unlikely. Thus, with pilot programs may be at risk, the current system isn't likely to be reversed. The Netherlands, despite a rightward shift in 2023 elections, the governing coalition has confirmed that it will not halt the regulated coffee shop trials delayed by supply issues. These trials are now set to fully implement regulated sales by April of this year. Thailand, following its election win in 2023, the Pheu Thai Party, which initially campaigned on placing cannabis back on the controlled substance list, has softened its stance. The party's initial plans to criminalize marijuana appears to be off the table. The government is now focused on regulating the cannabis market, which may include some form of regulated commercial sales. Restrictions and likely be placed in current unregulated market, but the shift towards regulation suggests that prohibition is not on the horizon. This move could also position Thailand for entry into the global medical marijuana trade. Czech Republic, initially arming for full legalization of commercial cannabis, the Czech Republic shifted focus in 2024 under pressure from the EU regarding UN treaty obligations. Czechia is seeking framework similarly to Germany, with provisions for personally cultivation and possession limits. Additionally, the government is working on a regulatory regimen for low THC hemp, not exceeding 1%, including HHC as part of the psychomodulatory substances regimen. Ooh. Ukraine medical marijuana program, which has faced delays and is set to roll out early 2025, initially will only serve patients with specific forms of cancer and war-related PTSD. While access will be highly restricted, there's hope that additional conditions may be included in the future. Currently, there is no medical marijuana products available to patients, but that is expected to change in early 2025. Argentina tightened up hemp and cannabis rules to boost compliance and industry integrity. Argentina Regulatory Agency for the Hemp and Medicinal Cannabis Industry has enacted the sanctioning procedure regulations to enhance compliance and industry integrity in the hemp and medical cannabis section. Effective immediately, the regulation addresses non-compliance with licensing conditions and reporting obligations, emphasizing transparency and accountability. And that is international news. When you were in high school or younger, grade school, you would get to go home for lunch. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I was so lucky. I think that was like every kid's dream.
Yeah, we had an hour to go home for lunch. It was probably a nightmare for the teachers because they had to like do roll call and attendance again when we came back.
Right. I always wanted to do that, but I lived too far away. So you were only allowed to do that at my school if you lived like a block away.
And you didn't have to go home. You just had the option to.
You had the option. Yeah. I would have loved to have gone home and watched
great.
TV and eat lunch.
Yeah.
But when you would go home.
We had a dog, so we let the dog out.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it worked.
When you go home, though, you got stuck doing what?
I had to make lunch for my older sister.
And what did your sister do?
She sat and twirled her hair on the couch and watched soap operas.
And soap operas from back when your sister was watching them to soap operas today.
They're probably the same people still.
Most. Some.
It's probably like only a week has passed.
So soap operas are reflecting some changing status on cannabis now, though. Right? Mm-hmm. Tell us about them, Mrs Weedman.
Yep. Since they first appeared in 1949, they have captured the audience's imagination. Whether nighttime or daytime, the tales of sex, power, love, betrayal, and more wooed viewers and kept them entertained. Soap operas reflect the changing status of cannabis. All My Children, One Life to Live, Days of Our Lives, and more have built legions of fans who grappled with some of the issues discussed openly, like birth control, war, divorce, drug use, mixed relationships, and more, and they continue to reflect current public opinion. Almost 90% of the United States citizens believe cannabis should be legal in some form, and AARP believes it has benefits. Soap operas had a hand in these changes. Historically, the shows have addressed various substances, including marijuana, often using them as a plot device to create dramatic tension. In the late 20th century, drug use was frequently depicted in exaggerated scenarios that highlighted the dangers of addiction and substance abuse. Since then, soap operas have played a role in the acceptance of medical marijuana. In a general hospital plot, they included discussions about medical marijuana. This particular plotline explored the benefits of marijuana for patients dealing with chronic pain and other medical conditions. The portrayal aimed to reflect real-life conversations surrounding the use of medical cannabis, showcasing its potential therapeutic effects in a dramatic context. Recent studies indicate that nearly half of soap opera viewers recall instances of marijuana use within the shows they watch. This suggests that marijuana is becoming a normalized element of storytelling in this genre. The portrayal of marijuana in soap operas often reflects societal attitudes towards the drug, which have shifted significantly over the years due to changing laws and cultural perceptions. Early pioneers in the industry became unintentional advocates, and marijuana's portrayal in daytime soap operas serves not only as entertainment, but also as a reflection of evolving societal attitudes toward drug use. As these shows continue to explore themes related to marijuana, they contribute to the ongoing conversations about marijuana's benefits toward health and society. That's pretty cool.
Soap operas.
Yeah, indirectly, like, yeah. They are helping stomp the stigma.
Stomp the stigma. Let's do it. My mom.
Your mom. Yeah.
Ma 420.
She loved the soaps.
Oh boy. She fucking, back when she wasn't working and raising my brother and I, she was a soap opera queen.
Yeah.
You couldn't go near
Would
the
you call
TV.
her girlfriends and like talk about the episode?
No, not at all.
No.
Maybe.
I bet they would talk about it.
But I just remember, like, we had one TV.
Yeah.
And you couldn't go near that TV.
Until what, like 3 o'clock?
Until the last soap opera was over, and then you got to watch your coming
That's
home
crazy.
from school cartoons, or if it was over the summer period, and you were home and you were like, damn, I'm going out.
No cartoons for you.
No, not from that time. You know, so Ma 420 loved her soap operas. Ms. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
Yep.
Another one down in the
Another one
books.
down.
Got anything else to say?
I'm really baked, and I feel pretty darn good. Thanks, Ignius. Cherry.
Caked Up Cherries.
Caked Up Cherries for the
Yes.
win.
Oh, for the win. Yeah, we smoked a big fat doink too. That was a gram and a half.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank Spliff Society for throwing us a great rap
Yeah.
too. Appreciate you.
Always a pleasure
Ignius,
smoking that.
always great throwing to the cause, my friend. And thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate y'all out there so much. Man from around the world, everywhere, thank you. And it humbles me every day when I get to meet people that listen to our show. Catching people now. I went to another dispensary. They put the show on because they, we're bullshitting about it, and they put it on. I was like, man, thanks,
That's
Galaxy.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So, play the show at your dispensary for me. It'd be great. I'll stop by and bring you some treats. So, everybody out there in the world, we love you. We appreciate y'all out there so much. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.